Hi everyone. What I thought I'd like to do is to read you a book, and this book is about a very famous moment in history, something that happened in a place called Pompeii, and it's about Mount Vesuvius. And this story is called The Pack of Pompeii. Now I'm going to read the blurb, and let's see if you can work out why it's called The Pack of Pompeii. So we'll turn to the blurb at the back of the book. The gentle mountain is no longer a mountain. Its top has gone, and in its place there is a huge cloud of flying rock and darkness, reaching up and claiming the sun, creating instant nightfall. It's 79 AD. Of all the dogs who work on the slopes of Mount Vesuvius, Livia is the strongest and the bravest. Every day she guides her pack as they herd goats on the hills overlooking Pompeii. But today, something is wrong. When the ground shakes and the sky begins to fall, Livia is forced to make new and difficult choices. Can she guide her pack to safety before the town is destroyed? Will she live up to the greatness of Delta, the famous hero dog that her pack tells stories about? Livia and her pack are about to discover what it really means to be a hero. Okay, so hopefully you've worked out what the title means, the Pack of Pompeii. Yep, you're right. Pack is a collective noun term for a group of dogs. It could be wild dogs who roam around together in a group. It's called a pack. So let's open up. And before we actually begin the reading, we have a setting here. Let's have a look in the foreground. Foreground, you can see Pompeii and the courtyard of Pompeii and people roaming around. And in the background, you can see Mount Vesuvius. Okay, let's turn the page. Couple of pages. The Pack of Pompeii. Now, from the blurb, you might have worked out who that dog is that you can see there. This book has 7 chapters, and in today's reading I'm going to read the first 3 chapters. Chapter 1. I hear Claudia approach my sleeping hollow long before she limps around the nearest cluster of rocks. Of the 3 of us who work the gentle mountain with our 2-legged shepherd, Claudia is by far the noisiest dog. She limps thanks to the sharp teeth of a fox in her youth, and sometimes a hind leg drags as we work the grassy slopes above the 2-leg settlement. I keep her nearby whenever the wolves come raiding. Her ears are flattened against her head today, telling me that she comes to share her worry. Trouble? I drag my head up off a cushion of crushed weeds. It has been an uncomfortable night. The goats are acting strangely, she pants. You'd act strangely if the only things you had to eat all day were spiky grass and thistle leaves. Leave them to the shepherd. In the morning light, Claudia's coat gleams like the reflected light of the hillside. She's the smallest of us, and sometimes when she curls up beside one of the rocks, I can only find her by scent. The shepherd is down in the town with the other 2 legs, she complains. The sun will be high soon, and he is late. You moan as much as the goats, Claudia. Claudia wishes that we had a more attentive shepherd, but he has his own pack in the town, with his own little ones to care for. Sometimes I wonder if Claudia would complain this much if I were male. Male alphas have less patience and are quicker to snap. She should be grateful that she has a female leader, but I'm too weary to remind her, and the sun drains my energy. Claudia rests her chin on her large brown and white paws. They say that the mountain is too warm. I roll onto my back, pressing against the stony ground to scratch and itch. Goats complain about snow in winter and heat in the summer. We're joined by Alba, my second. They say that they want to leave. Where is the shepherd? He should be here. I give Alba's black coat an envious sniff. It makes her almost invisible at night. better for outwitting wolves. She slashes her thick tail towards me. Sometimes I forget that she was a pup less than 2 summers ago. I'm hungry, Livia. The rabbit burrows are empty. A raven told me that they fled last night. Fled? They must have felt the rumbling, Claudia whimpers. I can feel it through my paws. Alba snaps, twitching her pointed ears. No more talk about rumbling, Claudia. We must eat. I bark. We must tend to the goats until the shepherd returns. There is only us. I'll have withered from hunger by then. Alba sniffs at my nose before retreating to a spot in the bare sunlight. I chase away any lingering tiredness by pressing my back into a long, low arch and look across the valley that sweeps from the mountain above us. Fields stretch out as far as my eyes can see. Some are wild grassland, littered with shrubs. Others are owned by the two legs. This is where they grow their crops, to eat and trade with the other two legs. 2 settlements lie within walking distance, one to the left of the mountain, another around the headland to the right. Our shepherd gives them 2 names, Pompeii and Herculaneum. Most live in the much larger Pompeii, where many two-legs trade, work and raise their families. Both are spread across the land, replacing the trees and plants with shelters made of stone. All is flat and everywhere. Walls of rock separate the two legs from one another. Some of their shelters are humble, but others are grand, towering with arches and columns of stone. The two legs' ugly, sprawling streets only stop when the earth meets a beautiful blue ocean. It's late. Let's go down there and raise the shepherd, I say. And see what breakfast scraps we can find, Alba follows, her tongue lolling. Maybe the young two legs will share her meal with us again, Claudia suggests hopefully. I don't answer, but as we begin to head down the hillside, I wonder whether Claudia has learned to read my thoughts or has grown as fond of the two-leg girl as I am. The young one's life with the shepherd is a full stomach, a bed to sleep in, and a pack who live for more than the threat of wolves and the low, angry moan of the mountainside. Before our last alpha died, he warned me that it wasn't wise to grow too attached to two legs, even if some of them do provide an easy meal. Mountain dogs like us need to keep our instincts sharp and our wits even sharper. 3 meals can make us lazy and slow, easy prey for hungry wolves. We trot down the grassy slope towards the edge of the town. On the outskirts, horses whinny nervously and scratch at the ground with their hooves. It seems that all the animals can sense something unusual and heavy threatening in the air. Chapter 2. I slow my pace a little, but Alba scampers towards the first few two-leg shelters, hungry and eager. Before she can get close, however, something stops her in her tracks. Livia! She turns her head to look at me, ears taut and alert, and I can see alarm in her eyes. A split second later, I know why. A rumble, low and distant, rolls through the dirt under our paws. All 3 of us stare in surprise at the ground, searching for the source. And then it happens. The whole world suddenly begins to tremble with a violent urgency, and at once everything around us is moving. It is as though the solid rock beneath us were alive and angry. Walls and trees shake on the edge of my vision, and I sink my claws into the earth. The horses tug at their ropes and bray loudly. Several two-legs drop to their knees and clutch at the ground to steady themselves. Alba and Claudia, each crouching low, catch my eye, but they are shaking so much that I can't maintain my focus. Just as quickly as it came, the trembling stops. The walls and the trees are still and silent once more. The distant rumbling sound dies away. The two legs pick themselves up and take tentative steps, as if making sure the ground won't swallow them whole. My heart pounds against my ribs, and I smack my lips together to ease my clenched jaw. Claudia, ears flat with fright, shivers. She presses against me, tail tucked between her back legs. The ground is angry. What do we do? Alba asked. She shifts her weight a little, as though she no longer trusts the dirt track beneath her. Staying low and listening hard to the ground, I lead my pack into the city. Echoes of the old Alpha's words still float around in my head, but I brush them aside. We must find the shepherd, we must find food, and we must stay together. Several streets later, Claudia pants as we all skulk behind a scrum of large urns. Livia, it's busier than their market day. I look around. We're in the yard of a place where the two legs come to eat. We often come here early, while the two legs still sleep, and search for discarded leftovers that lie hidden beneath the tables. At this time, the area is almost always deserted, but not today. The town is heaving with two legs. Many dash between buildings, having hurried conversations, and some carry armfuls of clothing and food. Some of the two legs in the biggest homes are packing belongings into wooden carts as though making to leave. This is wrong. Something's different, I say. Can you smell it in the air? Albert yaps in agreement as Claudia observes the rushing crowds. Maybe they've been talking to the goats, Claudia whimpers. Maybe it's too warm for them too. The earth gives another distant groan and Alba spins. We should go and see the girl. Get our food, then leave. Before I respond, a cluster of large urns beside us shakes and topples. Claudia yelps, hurling herself towards as she narrowly avoids being crushed. She rolls over on her damaged leg and yelps in pain. I make to leap to her, but hardened clay smashes at our feet and another ripple sends more noise from the panicked two legs. Claudia, can you stand? I say. She responds by pushing herself up on her strong forelegs. A quick shake of her mane allows the determination of her years to return to her face. I'm ready, Livia. My paws are hot and sweaty, but I try to hide the worry that drums against the inside of my chest. Wailing two legs rush out of their shelters. When the ground shakes again, the shudder is strong enough to rattle my claws, and this time I have to be quick to avoid large stones, which fall free from the wall of a trader's shop. Behind us, one of the two legs' large stone carvings falls from its perch, shattering when it hits the earth. Out of the way! The two leg aims a badly timed kick at Claudia, but regrets it almost instantly. Hey! Alba barks, flashing her teeth before snapping at the man's heels all the way to his home. Another enormous ripple slides across the ground, and the red-tilted roof groans and falls in, sending up clouds of dust as a thunderous sound fades. The ground continues to rumble, and for a second we all stand watching as the dust clears and the two-leg peers anxiously into the pile of rubble. As more buildings threaten to fall around us, I know that a difficult decision has to be made. Let's go, I order. We're not safe here. Chapter 3. We pass mostly unnoticed as we head back out of town. I lead the pack through a throng of two legs jostling along the city's narrow streets and dodge families with sobbing children. Traders are too busy trying to save their wares to pay us any attention. Some men pull great carts piled high with glassware and pottery, which scatter to the floor as the ground shakes yet again. Some even carry sacks filled with freshly baked bread and pungent meats. My mouth waters. Smaller homes are crowded with two legs, dressed in plain clothes. The doors slam shut and shuddering under the weight of their trembling roofs. I think that they hope to hide there until the ground calms itself. Not everyone has the means to leave, but I wonder if their homes will be strong enough. Already, more tiles have come loose and some smaller walls have collapsed. Alba growls when she sees two butchers, perhaps father and son, stumbling as they struggle to carry half a slain sheep across their shoulders. I can see the glint in my second's eyes. She is hoping that the angry earth will shake the carcass free of their grip. She whimpers her frustration when the men follow a small crowd which rushes through the doorway of a large shelter. It seems that they have chosen to seek safety beneath the roof of the town's largest building, rather than join the panicked herd of two legs who are heading to the outskirts of town, ready to flee. My gaze follows a hunk of meat out of sight, and my stomach growls. When I glance up at the passing two legs, I see fear twisting their faces. Their limbs jerk with hurried panic as many rush towards where the sea meets the land. Screams and shouts of family members separated from one another are beginning to fill the air, and I wonder what has become of our shepherd and his little ones. A new feeling, tugs me around and I change direction to head back into the town. "Follow me," Alba snarls as she glances towards the chaos of the city. When the earth shifts beneath our paws and a great crack tears through the stone street, I see her brown eyes shine with something that I rarely see in her. Fear. Claudia drops her head, submissive as always, but then dares to catch my eye. "We should get back to the fields, Livia." I show them both my teeth and slash my tail. Both dogs shuffle backwards. The young two-leg is part of the pack. She feeds us. The shepherd protects us. We must keep the pack together. I don't wait for their reply. Some of the two-legs keep dogs as house pets. Alba says that those dogs are weaker than cats and wouldn't last a night on our hillside. She is right, but I've wondered for a long while what a life alongside the two-legs would be like. I'm not as young as I once was, and sometimes when I grow tired of the goats, of my stony, sleepy hollow, and of chasing rabbits, I crave a more comfortable life. This I keep to myself, of course. The pack have always scorned the ways of house dogs. I spin and head towards a familiar shortcut, steering them down a back alley. We're flanked on both sides by rows of abandoned buildings. The two legs have built these places to rest and sleep, using rocks and stones and wood, but the angry earth has already torn deep lines through the walls. The city seems to be made up of many rows like these, crammed together so tightly. I'm surprised that the two legs don't lose themselves in the maze. Most seem to prefer their houses to the beautiful trees and grassy fields beyond the city walls. Elsewhere, much grander shelters are supported by rows of stone columns that rise from the floor like tree trunks. The biggest of these even have life-size figures of two legs, carved from solid rock, gazing down onto the streets below. The shaking earth has already sent several of these crashing down to the ground. Claudia whimpers as we hear another topple and explode on the very next street. Red tiles ripple like water along the rooftops and then shower onto the ground, and the cries of infants jostle for space in the air with new, strange smells and sounds. "The rabbits were smart," Alba grumbles. Her ears point towards the cloudy sky. "We should follow them and leave." "Once we find the shepherd," I snap. We're silenced by an unexpected sound. Psst! Something hits the ground beside me and rolls across the stone floor. "Meat!" Alba sniffs the air. A large leg of what smells like sheep comes to a halt just in front of us. Alba rushes to snag a meal, then remembers her place and reluctantly drops the hunk of meat at my paws. When I see another chunk of food drop over the top of a tall counter, I edge forward and look up. The familiar face of a small two-leg smiles down at me, and it relieves me to see that she is safe, for now. She reaches with straining fingers, trying to touch my fur. As always, I back away instinctively. Her brown eyes blink in disappointment. I sense that she looks forward to our visits, and, with shameful thought for my old Alpha, I realise that I do too. I see longing in the girl's features. This two-leg would happily offer us a home inside her shelter. She rips a strip of meat from its bone and drops it in front of me. She makes a different sound now. I think that she is trying to communicate, but her gentle, chirruping voice makes no sense to me. She has not yet mastered the whistles and grunts that the shepherd uses to communicate. He and the rest of his pack busy around inside, pulling urns down from shelves and collecting food into large pots with Ernest. We eat quickly. Eventually, the girl drops the rest of the food and leans as far over the counter as her small legs can manage. Her brow is furrowed and her voice becomes more urgent, and when her hand waves towards the fields that lie past the city walls, I suddenly understand her. Leave. We flee. Our bellies are full and the shepherd is safe, and yet an unfamiliar thought burrows like a grub inside my head. Perhaps I should have told the girl to leave too. or at least stayed with her. There is a danger hanging above this city today, something far more threatening than wolves. The streets are even more crowded now, bustling with terrified two-legs who surge like a swarm of insects to find somewhere safe from the angry rambling. But I'm not sure that anywhere is safe in this town. I lead Alba and Claudia away from the panic. We rush down quieter side streets and narrow alleys, avoiding the panicked two-legs as much as we can. Soon, we're heading towards the outskirts of town. I'm already smelling the reassuring whiff of wild asparagus when suddenly the floor shifts beneath our paws again. Claudia yelps. Alba flashes her an irritated snarl, but then whimpers as a high wall of a shelter splits in half right beside us. Before I can bark a warning, huge slabs of stone topple forward from a great height. As if in slow motion, I watch a giant wall of rock tumble towards my pack. It misses Claudia by an inch. But Alba isn't so lucky. I watch through wide-eyed as a stack of heavy, unsteady stones wobbles and buckles as if pushed by a giant hand. Alba freezes. The rocks will kill her. My legs propel me, not away, but towards the falling rocks. My shoulder slams into Alba, sending her rolling across the dusty floor, and I follow her, escaping the deafening crash of shattering stone by the width of a tail hair. "You saved me," Alba pants. "You could have died." "We are the pack, Alba. We are one." I silently promise myself that we will still be together at the end of the day, but as the two-leg shelters shake and topple, I wonder if I can keep my word. A sharp bark draws a glance over my shoulder. Claudia has stopped. The wooden gate to a large two-leg shelter draws her attention. "Claudia, those places aren't safe," I growl, but I know what it is about this gate that has stopped her in her tracks. This is a home of Delta, a well-known house pet and the hero of her two-leg pack. Albert snarls. Delta will be cowering in the corner, waiting for the two legs to release her. Claudia spins and shows her fangs. I heard that she wears a hero's collar. I heard that she saved her two legs 3 times. Once from the waves, once from attackers, and once Albert dismisses Claudia's claim with a tail swipe. I know the stories. The famous Delta chased off a lone wolf. But we do that every day. Enough! My bark echoes off weakened walls which collapse with the next tremor. Delta has her two legs to worry about. If she is as brave as you say, Claudia, she will lead them to safety. We have our charges on the mountainside, so we leave together. Claudia hesitates outside Delta's gate and gazes through a small crack. "Now, Claudia."